going on, guys? What is happening? Welcome to Party on Broad. Today is our eve of Sixers free agency show. We're breaking down the top storylines. James Harden opting out of that contract. What does it mean for the team moving forward? And all the Sixers free agent targets, all the trade rumors, including Tobias Harris and Matisse Thybulle. We are breaking it down. I'm going to throw it to my man Rob over there, our co-host. He is at Philly_Madness. What's up, Rob?
It is a great day, and I'm not letting anybody bring me down. Not Tom Kelly trying to fight me that on Twitter. Not Dibes bringing up deflections. Not Miles Sanders talking about Dream Team 2022. Not even Tiago trying to be a realistic guy with logic on Twitter. I don't want to see that nonsense today. I want to be happy because an NBA player left money on the table for this season so that this team could build a bench and build a team that hopefully gets us to where we want to get as a franchise. So today is a happy day for me. I'm thrilled. No one's going to ruin that.
Love it. All right, let's just do quick introductions. My man Austin Krell covers the Sixers beat for the Painted Lines, among many, many, many other things. He is also a Chick-fil-A aficionado. He is Austin Krell. Follow him on Twitter at NBA Krell. What's up, Austin?
Going on, guys? It's always great to be here and excited to add some commentary and the eve of free agency.
Love it. Then we've got my man from Fox Sports, The Gambler. He also is the co-host with Chalk Talk. He is, if you want to win some money, my man Mark Henry Jr. has got you. He is at Mark Henry Jr. _. What's up, Mark?
I wish I was winning me money. June has been rough. Baseball can't end soon enough. Looking forward to basketball and football season starting up. I could fast forward on the next couple months, but.
And then we've got one of the best Sixers Twitter follows there is, period. One of the best writers on the Sixers as well. He brings me down in a good way. When I get too excited, he knows how I roll. But that is Tiago at Tiago PHL on Twitter. What's up, Tiago?
Not according to Rob, man. He blocked me after that.
No, he's just a realist. That's all. I'm just not going to let it bring me down. Not bring me down.
It's good to have friends in high places, and Harden has a really good friend in a very high place in Sixers land. So I'm sure he'll be taken care of in some way, shape, or form. But yeah.
All right. Before we jump right in to James Harden opting out, that is what we're here for. I've got an awesome announcement. We are officially partnering up with Edge of Philly Sports. They are a huge Facebook channel that covers Philly sports, you name it, Philly, Sixers, Flyers, Eagles, all the above. We will be collaborating with them extensively. They also have an amazing website. Go check out edgeofphillysports.com and expect a ton of content coming to this channel. Phillies post games, Flyers post games, 5-6 shows per week. Every night here. So tons and tons of Philly sports content on the way. It's going to be unbelievable. So expect that pretty much starting today. I just got off a show with the announcement with the guys over there. So Edge of Philly Sports, go check out their Facebook page. Share the love. We already have a partnership with Philly Sports Alliance, and I freaking love those guys. But that's what we're here, man. We're here to grow, build up this network. And let's get started with the big news of the day. My man, James Harden, opting out. Let's react to it. I'm going to throw it to you, Rob. What was your main reaction?
Well, I got to say, my main reaction was the guy stuck to what he said he was going to do. I mean, in his final press conference, he basically said, I'm going to do whatever it takes to build a winner here in Philadelphia. And nobody really believed him. I don't think I really believed him. I was like, oh, yeah, an NBA player is going to leave $47 million on the table. Like, that just doesn't happen. As you look at L.A. with Russell Westbrook, it doesn't happen. But I think James Harden probably knows the end is near. He knows this is probably his best chance, last chance to get a title. So he's going to do whatever it takes. And if that's taking $10 million less this year, 12, whatever it works out to be, it's a great thing. And it tells you here's a guy who's committed, and I think the fan base is going to respect him for it. Now, with that said, he's got to come out and perform. He can't do what he did over the 33 games he was here this past season, but this was a great start to the free agency period, which will begin tomorrow, and I'm very, very eager and excited to see what where the dominoes fall now that this one has taken place.
What about you, Austin? What was your first reaction?
The first reaction is that given Harden's decision, it sounds like he's going to take somewhere between 12 million dollars less in the first year of his next deal. Given that figure, it doesn't really matter that the salary cap went up today because that was only going to give you about $1 million more in space. So Harden takes 10 and 12 million off in the first year. That facilitates you having enough room for not only the biannual and non-taxpayer mid-level exceptions, but it also gives you a little bit of wiggle room with trades throughout the course of the season should you decide that you want to make some changes.
I'm muted. Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. Tiago, what was your reaction? Now Tiago's
Tiago's
muted.
also muted.
Everybody's muted tonight. If I don't want to hear what I have to say, no, I'm just joking. If you're a Sixers fan, you got to be excited, man, because depth is something that they've struggled to build around Joel Embiid. And now they're in a position to do so at a very high level. They also mentioned what it's freed up cap-wise and the amount of money they're able to play around with. You're talking about some heavy hitters, man, in that slot. So it's on Morey now to fill out this roster. There's obviously talked about PJ Tucker being one of the guys to slot into those figures, but I want to see who goes in and who goes out because I think that's going to dictate what the Sixers are next year.
All right, let's go with the Mark. What was your reaction? What does it mean for this roster moving forward, man?
You won't find anyone more optimistic in Sixerland than me right about now. And I've been singing the same tune since the end of the season. Like I think a lot of people were beaten down by this year's playoff loss, and I've been there before. Like Atlanta Hawks loss broke me. Like the Celtics losses hurt. But like this one, our MVP missed the first 2 games and then was playing at 50% the rest of the games. And people want to make broad generalizations about James Harden's time on the Sixers and broad generalizations about the entire era. I agree with the first 95% of what Rob said and everything of what Rob said about James Harden taking less money. It's honorable. I mean, no one's going to give James Harden the credit because no one wants to give James Harden the credit, but him taking less money, let's just say it plainly. He opted out of a $47.1 million option. Like just saying that out loud, I think says everything it needs to be said. I know he's going to make $36 million. It's not like he's hurting for cash, but it's a big sacrifice to try to make the team that you play on better. And the one thing that I just want to respond to that Rob, the thing at the end that I disagreed with, I think James Harden can be the exact same version that we just got. And I think that the Sixers can go and compete for a championship. Now, what we need to think about with James Harden is he's not Houston Harden. What we need him to be is a top 25, second best player on the team. That's a point guard that we sorely needed before he got here, who averages over 10 assists. He's the only player in the NBA last year who averaged over 20 and 10. So his hamstring was cooked. It was falling off the bone. He averaged over in 20 and 10 with that hamstring that was cooked falling off the bone. So if he is healthy, then yeah, that would be amazing and they'll be even better. But if he's 21 and 10, Tyrese Maxey's a 21-year-old phenom on his rookie contract who's going to average close to 18, 19 points per game. And you have a guy who the city believes is the best player in the world who should have won MVP last year. I'm feeling great. Like James Harden has to be like Giannis won a title 2 years ago with the Bucks. Chris Middleton was the second best player. Steph won a title last year or this year now. Andrew Wiggins was the second best player. Joel Embiid's going to have to be MVP Joel, and James Harden just has to be, Chris Middleton, Andrew Wiggins level second best player. I think people get too caught up because he's
Absolutely.
James Harden.
Yeah. Can I just make a point on that? Because I agree with mostly what Mark has to say. I do think the Sixers need a better version of James Harden for the simple fact that their number one guy is a post scorer. And we can saw primarily against Miami what teams will do, and then Lindsay will go to take Joel Embiid off the court. And you can erase Joel Embiid off the court by double or triple teams. You can simply just do that. So I do think they need to have a more aggressive James Harden as a scorer, as a shooter. And just the rerunning James Harden from last year, I don't think it's enough. And I think Harden knows that because he is focused on I'm bringing back his best self. And I think the Sixers will see a different James Harden this year. I'm absolutely certain of that. So we'll see.
He had 13.6 field goal attempts per game with the Philadelphia 76ers. The caveat here is he was obviously trying to pump up Joel Embiid to win MVP here. But what did he have in the playoffs? And what are your guys' expectations with this guy moving forward as a shot creator and as a bucket getter for the Sixers? I'll throw it to you, Mark. Like, what do you think our expectations should be on this next contract for James Harden?
Like Chris, he's entered his version of the Chris Paul era. Like I don't think people are going to be negative about that too, because Chris Paul is a famous someone who doesn't have a ring. So it's kind of the same thing as James Harden. So everyone loves to kind of crap on both of those guys, but they're both excellent players who are kind of, there's like 3 to 5 passers in the league that are even in James Harden's level. So I think he's just entered his own version of the Chris Paul era, and his numbers are still kind of better than Chris Paul. So even if you look at last year's, he's not as good as a defensive player as Chris Paul is. So it's a little bit different. And he's even still he scored more than Chris Paul by a good bit last year. But that's kind of what I need him to be. I just want him to average over 10 assists. I'd like him to be a little bit more efficient, like maybe 34% from three, maybe a little bit better at the rim. I think he was 48% or so on twos. He was 55% on twos 2 years ago. So even if you just make that like 50 to 51%, like I think that there's minor improvements I'm looking for. But the one thing I do want to say is like Giannis is I know Giannis is his own type of guy who kind of breaks the mold. But, if we're saying Joel Embiid should have been the MVP, I think you can kind of say he's kind of the same guy where the Bucks figured out a way to win with a post player. Like, we kind of have to do the same thing. And I think James Harden being able to feed Joel in the pick and roll does that.
Yeah. Quentin Moore says 20 and 10 Harden would be nice. We have a Cowboys fan in the chat. And I'm not responding. But let's go back to keep rolling on James Harden and those Chris Paul kind of expectations. John is saying 3 years, 110 million. Is that official, Austin? Have you seen that?
Yeah, that's not official.
That's not official. All right.
So I think what it looks like is the first year. Let's say conservatively, the first year is $35 million. Let's say let's also assume that he's going to get 8% annual raises on that. That looks like about 37.8 million year 2, 40.6 year 3 for a total of 113 million. And then there's the middle ground, which would be 36.5 in the first year, and then it's going to be a rising scale from there. So I think 3 years, 110 is very, very conservative, probably verging on quite unlikely. But yeah.
Anybody else have any comments on James Harden before we roll on to the other news of the day?
Yeah, I want to say that I kind of we don't need Houston James Harden, but I would like to see a more aggressive, more efficient James Harden than what we got in the third, and maybe the hamstring. I don't know what it was, but the argument I was having with somebody online today was, he said, "Well, how can you look at the last 2 years of James Harden and think that's what you need? That's blind faith." Sports is blind faith. Every year is blind faith. You don't know what's going to happen from one year to the next. You don't know when Father Time is going to kick in on some of these guys. It's just a matter of being a sports fan. So if you want to accuse me of having blind faith that Harden could be a better number 2 guy to Joel Embiid this upcoming year, go ahead. That's what being a fan of sports is like. No, there is nothing for certain. There is no analytic out there that can tell you for certain that this guy is going to do this in this upcoming season. All you have is the current situation. And for the current situation the Sixers were in, for James Harden to opt out so that they can sign more guys, it is the best chance at getting this team into that title conversation that we had. So, yeah, I am going in with blind faith because that's what sports is. I don't know how you can look at it really any other way.
Yeah. All right. Quick comments from
that's not true. That's not true. I mean, Rob, the Cowboys, for example, they are we know every year they're going to fuck up, right?
I love it.
Look, there's always every squirrel finds a nut, right? At some point, that's just one of the situations.
Christopher Ward says, should Tucker be our number one target with that exception? What about a player like Lou Dort? We are going to be getting into that. Amir Coffey would be great, says John. Anthony says Harden pay cut and a Tobias trade plus MLE BAE Eagles championship roster. Let's roll on. Let's roll on to kind of the other biggest news of the week. During the NBA draft last Thursday, we had the D'Anthony Melton trade. Let's grade this out of 10 and just talk like top reaction. I'm going to throw it to you, Tiago. What was your reaction and grade out of 10 for this new addition, D'Anthony Melton?
I mean, grade is an A. We'll find it hard anybody grade otherwise. I thought that Morey got the best of both worlds in the draft. He got more athletic. He got young. He got an NBA level player at pick 23. I don't think you can say any other team in that spot got the value that the Sixers got at pick 23. I would give it an A plus. The only reason I'm not giving it an A plus because I don't necessarily trust Doc Rivers to use him in a role that I think. and I'm not saying it's just start that Doc Rivers hate. He's not an isolation-driven player. He's not a pick-and-roll ball handler. And I do feel that Doc Rivers will try to use him in that Shake Milton type role, which I don't think is really what he should be doing on the NBA court. But as a floor spacer, adding athleticism on the wing defensively, high level activity, high level defensive events, all the things that the Sixers absolutely need on their roster. They now have a recipe to defend some of the better wing players in the NBA. And I think that is a huge check mark they needed to cross off going into the season. So, yeah, hey, absolutely.
What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I couldn't be more excited. We were sitting on the draft stream together, Dives, where, we're waiting for the pick to come. All of our guys are going off the board one by one between 17 and 22. Tiago, I forget, Laravia went at 19. Eason went at 17. There was another one in that mix who went that we were all looking at. And that's kind of the same way I feel about this. It's like we could have taken a chance on a Wendell Moore. Maybe he's a guy who can come in and play right away. Maybe. But you go and use that trade asset with pick 23 to go and get a guy without a shadow of a doubt can play at least 25 plus minutes on your team, because he just did it on a contender last year in Memphis, and he did. So he was a big part of the reason that they were able to go 20-5 without Ja Morant, which is one of the more shocking stats in NBA history, that Ja was the most improved player and his team went 20-5 without him. Melton was a big reason for that. And if you look at a lot of the Twitter reaction from Grizzlies fans, Grizzlies beat writers, they're miserable that they traded D'Anthony Melton. They can't believe that they gave him up for the 23rd pick. So I think he's the perfect kind of guy to match up with Maxey. And I think he's an even better guy to match up with Harden. Tiago's thing about Doc Rivers being concerned about Doc Rivers not being able to use him is extremely valid in my opinion, especially with Maxey on the floor. That'll be interesting to see how they kind of do that. I do think having Harden out there with him will help a lot. I think his ability to shoot the three ball, I think Harden will be able to find him in good spots for him. The concern would be that Maxey Melton lineup, but theoretically, especially defensively with those two guys, he's the perfect fit.
Yeah, so what would you grade out of 10, Mark? I'm keeping score.
My bad. 8. No, give me a 9. Give me a 9.
9. What about you, Tiago? 9?
9.
What about you, Austin? What was your reaction? I don't know if I know this one yet.
I would say it's a 10.
Woo!
I think it's better than anybody they were going to get in the draft. He makes them more athletic. It's really a good pickup. A good use of the 23rd pick, if you ask me.
I remember during the draft night stream, and I was like, this is a great trade. And then the more you look into it, and the more like, oh my God, like everything he brings fits this roster to a T. The dude shot 45.4% from three from the corners during his 4-year career. Like, you just lost DG, who was a great shooter from the corners. There's so many different areas where this guy is going to make a major impact from the jump. What about you, Rob? What was your grade?
10. You needed athleticism, you got it. You needed some youth, you got it. You needed a guy that could defend but can also hit a few shots, you got it. You got everything you wanted out of a player, and you know what he is because he's already played in the NBA. So in that sense, you already got a better guy than anybody you would have drafted at that spot, because it would be a crapshoot, even more so. I think there's nothing wrong with this move. I know Mark and Tiago and all the Doc hate are going to put that and make it the 9 because they don't trust Doc. Well, I talked about blind faith. My blind faith continues. I am going to die just like I went down and tumbled down the Brett Brown hill. I died on that hill. I was reincarnated, and now I'm going to die on the Doc hill, who believes that he can still win with Doc Rivers. I'm a jackass. I get it, but I'm very happy with the move.
I kind of wish we still had Brett. I won't lie. I think would be the exact. I think things would be the exact same, and at least Brett wouldn't be mean to people like our friend Austin. You know, at least Brett wouldn't be a total asshole to the media and make everyone hate you. But whatever. I have my own feelings about Doc Rivers.
I thought Doc had played a great role with Adam Sandler and Hustle, though.
I promised Dobbs I'd watch it last weekend, and I lied. I haven't seen it.
Oh, Mark. Mark.
I was in it. I was literally in the movie.
Oh, now I have to see it.
No, you have to go back and look at Austin's freeze frame of it to see Austin. He is there. But there's no way
as always, I'm playing with my hair.
Yeah, Mark, get on that, man. Come on.
I have
to. John definitely gives this an A. Quentin echoes Tiago's statement. None of these moves matter as long as Doc is the coach.
I was just talking about Melton. I didn't even got to the rest of the stuff yet.
Get me a shirt. Get me a Doc Hill shirt, please.
Quentin Moore says 8 because I crave for more size and athleticism. That's the main hole on the roster right now, right at the 3. Anthony says, apparently Dallas is obsessed with Matisse. We are going to get to that very, very soon. So let's move on to, does anybody else have anything they want to say about DeAnthony Melton and the trade? Rolling on. Let's talk about PJ Tucker. I don't think it's official yet, but it looks like some sort of 3-year, $30 million contract with the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's react and grade this thing out of 10. Let's lead off with you, Rob. What was your grade and where are you at?
I mean, Dives, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we started, grading free agents, and he was our top grade consensus for both of us. I understand everybody's fear of the age. I get it, but we're in a 1 to 2 year window here. And anyone that thinks it's different is incorrect on that. What did this team lack a lot of this year? Toughness and a guy that could just piss off the other team's best player defensively. I know that PJ Tucker's 37 years old. I get it. I get all those concerns. But a guy like that fits what this team needs in the sense of a tough, savvy veteran who could still knock down a shot from the corner and can defend on the other side and be that pain in the ass type of guy that I don't think the Sixers have really had in the Embiid run here. I love the idea of PJ Tucker on this team. He was the first guy that I thought of when I thought about free agency for this team. Because of his age, I won't give it a 10. I'll probably sit 7.5, 8, somewhere in there. But I would be thrilled if this comes to fruition because I'll be honest with you, I'm not really worried about year 3 right now. I'm worried about years 1 and 2. And I do believe in year 1 at least, he's still got enough juice in the tank to help this team, get to where they want to be.
You know what I just thought of? Ironically, I love this picture right here because, when was the last time the Sixers had a dog on this team, a guy that would, get in someone's face? I go to Corey Brewer, ironically, defending James Harden. If anybody remembers that game, I remember, just Sixers fans going nuts because they never seen that before for years. It was awesome. And there we go, PJ Tucker and James Harden on the same screen as we go. But Austin, what was your grade for the PJ Tucker signing, assuming everything goes through?
I think it's A+. I think everyone gets upset about the age and all that. I think age for a guy who has inherently has a low usage doesn't really matter all that much. He's not going to be asked to do things that he's never done before. He's going to be asked to score 6 to 7 points a game, get some rebounds. I mean, look, at 36, he was wiping the Sixers' ass up and down the floor in the playoffs. I mean, beating them to every loose ball, every back cut, every offensive rebound, and he made them look stupid, quite frankly, doing it. So, if Joel Embiid wants PJ Tucker, you might as well go get him, because if you lose the second round again, at least you can't say that we didn't do it Joel's way.
Right on. What about you, Tiago?
Yeah, this is where I think we're going to diverge a little bit in opinions, because I don't necessarily agree with the takes being thrown out there. Listen, I'm not a GM. Smart teams want PJ Tucker on their team. There's obviously the reason why. The guy's a very good player. But I don't think you can just look at that as a vacuum. PJ Tucker is 37 years old, 37 going on 38 eventually.
Yeah, but 37 is in 21. So what are we talking about?
Yeah, but he's also not I don't consider him a low usage player. He may be on numbers wise, but he defends up position. He defends multiple position. And that is wear and tear in your body. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. So yes, he had a phenomenal year at Miami. There's no question about it. If the Sixers get this level of output from the PJ Tucker from Miami, it's an absolutely slam dunk signing. No questions asked. But I am skeptical that they will get that level of output for the simple reasons that, one, he was used differently in Miami. Like, Miami used him a lot on backdoor cutting, like Austin talked about. They're way more creative with their offensive sets than Sixers are. Again, not to go back into the Doc Rivers conversation, but I don't trust the Sixers to utilize him the same level of efficiency that Miami did. And second of all, like, if you go back and look at his shooting numbers prior to last year, like, they weren't good. They were average to below average spot up numbers, which is supposed to be the role that he's going to be serving here with the Sixers. So if he's that type of player, if the Sixers get the regression level player next year, then it's not a slam dunk A+ signing. It's just not. I mean, it's just not. So I'm a little more skeptical, a little bit more hesitant about if that's the player the Sixers are going to get. If they are going to get that player, then it's absolutely A+, no questions. But I'm not so sure.
What's your grade?
I would give it like a C+, B-.
C+. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably in the middle of all you guys. Like, I have
that's no fun.
I know it's not. I have concerns. Like Tiago mentioned, like, he's 37. Like, he's definitely getting up there. He definitely wasn't as good as he was in Miami the years leading up to that. But on the other end, he was on two really good teams the last 2 years. He was like the third or fourth best player in the playoffs on Miami this year. At times it felt like he was an important piece on a championship roster 2 years ago, where I keep bringing the Bucks up, but I kind of think because I mentioned the way that they used Giannis to become a post-level player who is still the best player on a championship team, I think the Sixers can take a lot of lessons in what the Bucks did. And I think PJ Tucker was a really important piece of that. And I think they learned that this year when they were missing a dog in the playoffs. I mean, I know they had another injury that was kind of part of why they went down. But anyway, I think obviously PJ Tucker he's a different type of guy, like you guys mentioned, than we've had. He has that dog in him. I think he is a leader. I think he's a vet. Like, there's certain things that I usually don't give a lot of credence to. I tend to be a lot more numbers based, but those are things that you can't take away. And those were things that everyone came out in the post game or in the post series pressers and said that they were lacking toughness. And I think PJ Tucker does make a lot of sense. But when it comes down to it, put all that aside, none of it matters. I think Austin Krell nailed the whatever you want to say, the tail on the donkey, whatever. I was missing the expression. Nail the pin on the, yeah, whatever you want to say. Nailed something on something. I think if Joel Embiid was asking for it, I think you do it. I think Joel Embiid is the franchise. You look at some of the other franchise players in their sports, like Kevin Durant at one point was calling the shots for Brooklyn. Like, LeBron's calling the shots for the Lakers. Like, Joel Embiid, I'm not saying I need him to be the GM and need him making every decision, but if he goes and says, hey, I want PJ Tucker and we have the ability to do it, realistically, we're signing him to be a sixth man. We're signing him to be the sixth or seventh most important guy on the roster. So I think that at that point you go and do it, and you hope that, like Rob said, year one is what last year was, or 90 to 95% of what last year was. And you worry about year two and year three down the line. And it's also not like $10 million is not an impossible trade to move. So I give it like a B.
All right. A B. So we're going to settle around like an 8.5 out of 10. from what I see. Real quick, Anthony has a great question. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot, and that is PJ Tucker next to Tobias Harris. What is your vision of PJ Tucker on offense and defense with the Sixers? And do you see him as a starter or coming off the bench? Lead us off, Mark. Do you like the fit with Tobias, or do you think he's better off the bench?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people really nervous about the fit with Tobias. Tobias' three-point rate was way up once James Harden got here. Like, I'm not as negative on Tobias right now as a lot of people seem to be. And I think you look at the fact that PJ Tucker was playing forward next to Jimmy Butler, who doesn't shoot threes most of the time. Sometimes he decides to in the playoffs when he's feeling like it. But in the regular season, Jimmy Butler doesn't shoot threes. PJ Tucker fit in fine next to Jimmy Butler. I'm not saying Jimmy and Tobias are the perfect fit next to each other, but are the perfect, comparison in terms of how PJ Tucker is going to fit with both of them. But I don't really understand a lot of there's no way these two can play together and we have to trade Tobias. I guess I don't really vibe with that.
What about you, Tiago? Do you see this guy as a starter next year or coming off the bench?
I don't not see him as a starter. I think if the Sixers were to move Tobias and slot PJ Tucker in that 4, I think they were making a big mistake. Yes, they were net positively defensively, but offensively, I think they'll be leaving a lot on the table for PJ Tucker to fill in that role. So I agree with Mark. I do think they can play together. You can play PJ at the 3, play PJ at the 4. Tobias seems pretty flexible between both spots. Obviously, the 4 being the better position for him, but I do think they can work. I'm just a little bit hesitant about saying we need to move Tobias to have PJ Tucker to start. I don't agree with that take at all.
Yeah, we'll be talking about Tobias very, very soon. What about you, Rob? Or sorry, Austin. Austin's up.
That's what you do. You call the Lakers. You go, look, we have this forward. He's a good guy. Reads a lot of books. Waka Flocka Flame says he's a lot like a guy you already have. And you say, we'll take LeBron James off your hands, and and you can just eat the salary, and that'll be all. And he'd be a great fit next to franchise player Russell Westbrook. And, you guys are in a good position to win a title. No, I mean, look, like Tobias is Tobias. I mean, you're fighting an uphill battle if you try to convince people that he's a really good player who's just overpaid. Everyone thinks he sucks. I think in a positionless NBA, you can have 2 starting power forwards. Like one is never in the post anyway. One's stretched out to the corners or cutting to the basket or setting screens. Other one is shooting off the catch or posting up. So I mean, I don't think it isn't like you're playing 2 guys that are going to be double posted. One's going to do one thing, the other's going to do another thing. They just happen to positionally be labeled as the same thing.
What about you, Rob? Real quick before we move on to our next storyline.
Yeah, I kind of agree with everybody. I think the NBA is more positionless now in certain things, especially in that 3 and 4 position. I don't think these guys are the same player in any way, shape, or form. I think what you're seeing is a lot of people just continuing their Tobias hate. And honestly, like I said to Tiago before we came on here, the only way I was going to be okay with them moving Tobias if it was for something big, like they needed that space for something big to happen. There's no reason to move the guy. The guy's a good NBA player. And if you watched him, and I think I said this during the year, when Tobias gets the ball earlier in a shot clock, he's much better. It's when he gets it late and he dribbles the clock out, and then it's like, holy shit, what's he doing? I think that they can absolutely work together. I think that's not a problem. And I think people need to just stop the Tobias hate in this town. Really.
I don't want to turn this a numbers podcast, but does anybody want to venture how many spot up attempts Tobias had in the postseason per game? It was almost 6 a game. He was like the 6th highest volume spot up player in the playoffs at 1.20 points per spot up. Like, that's elite level scoring. PJ Tucker's not giving you that. He's just not. So you kind of need Tobias to fill that role, at least for now. So.
Yeah, I completely agree with Tiago on the whole. I think anyone suggesting that you have to move Tobias Harris because you signed PJ Tucker is insane. I think that there's trades I would entertain trading Tobias Harris for someone else just because of the value there. But it had nothing to do really with PJ Tucker. To me, PJ Tucker is a complete additive.
Yep. Let's go to some comments real quick.
Laugh at me, Crow.
No, I'm laughing at something somebody said to me.
No, I'm joking.
Daniel says PJ Tucker is not worth $30 million.
But who is in the NBA? Like, I mean, these guys get over. Look at the contract.
No. Look.
What the Clippers got. Like, I mean, this shit happens all the time.
It's not $30 million in one. It's not $30 million in 1 year. It's
right.
$30 million across 3 years. That is the value of the non-taxpayer mid-level exception. You're not going to get players that are much better than that for the non-taxpayer mid-level exception. Ivica Zubac got $11 million yesterday, which is right above the non-taxpayer mid-level exception. We can argue about how much better or different he is than PJ Tucker, but the bottom line is that it's really good value for the non-taxpayer mid-level.
Isn't Josh Harris like buying the Broncos anyway? Like, who cares? It's $30 million of Josh Harris's money.
Why in Philadelphia, we're a blue-collar town where everyone's hard working just to make ends meet, why do we give a shit what billionaires are doing with their money? If they got it and they can spend it, I don't give a shit who they give it to if the guy can come in and help the team win.
No, the fact that you have a guy who embodies everything that Philadelphians are about, and you don't want that guy, that's the most Philadelphia thing ever. Oh, there's always somebody not to want. There's always somebody that you have.
You know what? It's funny. Ever since I started doing the show with you guys in the painted lines, I have grown to hate Philadelphia fans more.
Oh, they're horrible.
I am one. I've grown to hate them because, and it's between this and Twitter. It's like I just feel like my head's going to combust one of these days.
That's great.
Michael says, I see all guys complaining, though. We paid PJ. I guess we're going to be complaining when he starts slowing down next year. I mean, the dude has played 71-plus games the last 5 years.
Michael doesn't pay attention to our show because every guy on this show owns it when they say something and the opposite happens. Every single one of us own it. Nobody here starts to change their tune. They own it.
Yep. John says Tucker fills the leadership vacuum caused by trading Danny Green. Yeah. Austin, what were you saying?
I'm just imagining, like, what if you commissioned like a group of 10 Philadelphians to be the general manager of.
Oh my God! If this was Green Bay, it would be hell.
They would be calling teams about players that don't exist because they're mispronouncing the names.
Yeah, and Quentin just put up there. I don't care about PJ Tucker at 41. I care about him the next year and second year. Really, the next year. All I care about is 2022-23 right now. That's it. That's all I give a damn about.
You get a new mid-level exception every year. It does not matter.
We got so sidetracked. I love it.
This is so fucking stupid.
Austin's going in. Brendan says Tobias played well in the playoffs and the team lacks any other quality fours. John says Tucker will be a great co-coach with Harden, especially for Paul Reed and Michael Foster Jr. I like that. I like
Tucker with Reed. I think Tucker could teach Reed a little aggressiveness in there.
I want a lineup of like Thybulle, Reed.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Does anyone know what PJ Tucker stands for, by the way?
No, what?
Pops Jr.
That's correct.
That's what I want him.
That's incredible. Great trivia question. I love that.
His nickname on Basketball Reference is also listed as Tuckwagon.
Yeah, I would pay him a max contract because of his nicknames.
Anyway, we were talking about Tobias trades or something.
Yeah, let's go on. I'm going to throw it to you, Mark. What is your take on the Tobias Harris trade rumors right now? I think it came out a few hours ago that Sacramento could be interested. Mark, do you do the trade? Do you not? What's your take?
Yeah, I've only really heard 3 trades for Tobias, and this is like dating back, the whole off season. I've only really heard 3 trades that have really made a lot of sense to me, or at least have piqued my interest. And one of them is Sacramento, because I think Harrison Barnes might just be a cleaner fit and can also kind of stretch that 4 a little bit. I think Harrison Barnes is just as good as Tobias Harris, and if you can get a cheaper player while also adding maybe a Justin Holiday, maybe a Mo Harkless. I don't know if Mo Harkless has anything left in the tank. Maybe even a Rashawn Holmes, who kind of fell out of favor and stopped being able to play in Sacramento once they traded for Sabonis, and now they have.
Do you know why he's not being able to play?
Because he's not very good, is what you're going to say.
No comment.
I'm not saying he's incredible or anything like that, but he could be at least an option at backup center if you're not convinced on Paul Reed. I'm convinced on Paul Reed. I don't need Rashawn Holmes. But if you can get the same level player as Tobias at a cheaper value while also adding a potential other rotation player, that's something I'm interested in. I think Sacramento makes a lot of sense for that. The only other team that I've heard that makes sense is Charlotte. I think there's definitely something there with Gordon Hayward as well. I think Hayward would be a really clean fit as well. And then I think Miles Bridges sign and trade would make sense, but I have no idea what's going to happen with Miles Bridges or what's going to happen.
That'd be nice. I would love that trade.
That I'm okay.
But for Miles Bridges.
But is Charlotte just going to let him walk for free? No. It seems like that's what's going to happen. Like seems like the reports are that they're not they're not going to match a deal. The reports are they're not signing him. So is someone just going to give him an offer sheet and they're not going to do it? Like they would probably rather at least get Tobias, who's expiring next year, and maybe you flip him for an expiring next year. So,
but there's one important point to note here. If you acquire a player via sign-in trade, you are hard capped, so you can't go above the apron at any point in the season, which would severely restrict you with what you're going to be able to do. Now you're already going to be hard capped anyway with the non-taxpayer mid-level exception. But you want to be careful about the kind of salary you're allocating because you might want to preserve a little bit of room left for the trade deadline.
I totally agree with that. None of those three players I mentioned would take them. I think you would subtract on the cap because I don't think even whatever Miles Bridges makes, I think Miles Bridges max would be lower than what Tobias is making right now since the percentage raise in each year of Tobias's deal.
I didn't think that far ahead. I'm sorry.
But Hayward and Barnes both make less. Those are the only three things I've heard that pique my interest. So I'm not saying like I just said earlier, I'm not negative on Tobias. I just think that those three names make a lot of sense and would slot in really nicely. Bridges was definitely a pie in the sky idea. I'm not saying that was anything likely, but there seems to be no consensus on what's going to be happening with his free agency. So I thought it was worth bringing up.
Real quick. John says, folks need to remember what happened when the Sixers lost TJ McConnell's leadership. Tobias Harris is necessary. Anthony says, would you trade Thybulle and Korkmaz for Royce O'Neal? Yes or no, real quick? Anybody?
Yeah.
Anybody? Yeah? We're all good.
Yeah. That's a great trade. Kidding me?
Kami says, are you going to talk about Bradley Beal today? Absolutely.
Why? He's going to sign a max with the Washington.
He's going back to Washington. He's going back to Washington.
Keep that loser in DC.
Let's be honest here. Let's be honest with ourselves here. I mean, this is more about him getting his money, and then if he feels like he can't win there, he's going to request a trade. I mean, that's inevitable. And it'll probably be to Boston, and they'll probably send back Jaylen Brown, and it'll be the two best friends that anyone could ever have from St. Louis in Boston, and then Jaylen Brown is in DC.
That'd be a dumb trade for Boston.
I think neither team gets better by that trade.
Bradley Beal's a loser.
Tiago, what's your take on the Tobias Harris trade rumors? I know we kind of touched on it earlier, real quick. What should the Sixers move on from Tobias?
No, unless there's something that makes sense. I'm interested from Mark's perspective. Why do you think Miles Bridges is a good fit? Because from what I've seen from Miles Bridges, he's like a me guy, isolation, take it to the hoop. And that is not what you want on this roster, at least from my perspective. I think if you're going to trade Harris, you want a more cleaner fit around a catch-and-shoot guy who can play both ends of the court. I don't see Bridges being that guy, so I don't know. Maybe you see something different. I'm interested to hear what you say.
Well, is Bridges available?
Yeah, that'd be great. But speaking of the other Bridges, I think you kind of have to – depends on what you think of his shot. And I mean, he was 33% this year, 33% 2 years ago. Last year, he shot 40% from three, and all three have been on similar levels from three to Tobias. And he's also just much more of a transition player to Tobias. So he's actually, like, in a lot of ways, I don't think a lot of people would think this. Like, they're pretty similar in the half court, Miles Bridges and Tobias Harris. But Miles Bridges is a lot younger and a lot better in transition. You probably are sacrificing a little bit on defense. Tobias is probably just a little bit smarter of a defender at this point, at least as far as I've seen in terms of Miles Bridges. But for me, it would mainly be the transition element that you'd be adding with Miles Bridges and the ability to go and run with Maxey. I think that those two would be really good together. But I guess it's not as clean as I think Gordon Hayward and Harrison Barnes are in terms of the fit. But I think it's similar to Tobias and younger and cheaper and more athletic.
I do love the Gordon Hayward fit. I think it's a much better fit. And I just want to make more of a point because people love throwing the idea that like you just need a catch and shoot guy in Tobias's role. Tobias Harris is a very good player, man. It's not just catch and shoot with Tobias Harris. Like people love throwing that idea around, like, oh, you just put Niang out there and the Sixers are better because there's an advanced matchup around. I'm like, yes, but like Tobias is still a very good player, and you just can't ignore that. Period.
Mark, they're talking about the Houston Rockets.
I'm listening to you guys. I'm watching the chat. Let's just talk about what we've seen. Someone brought up that the Sixers fell apart because they lost the TJ McConnell leadership. That's why they fell apart. Then they're going to tell us that we're sitting here just trying to recreate Houston. No, not at all what we're trying to do. We want to know why Houston didn't have Joel Embiid first and foremost. Secondly, we're only talking about PJ Tucker as a basketball player, and he is a tough-minded, defense-first, can knock down a shot or two guy. That's why we like him. So stop just saying shit to say shit. Like come at us with something other than he's old. Like it's absurd to me. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to rip on the guy, but no one should ever tell me again that the Sixers fell apart because TJ McConnell went to Indiana. Don't ever say that to me again. I love TJ McConnell, but that was not the problem.
You're telling me that his 11,000 per 36 in the playoffs weren't great?
Me and Austin, my bad. Me and Austin did a great segment on radio on Saturday talking about this Houston Rockets point that the chat is talking about, where all Daryl can do is copy what he did in Houston. And he's a one-trick pony and he's an idiot and all this stuff about Daryl wanting to copy the Rockets. Guess what? Those Rockets teams won 55, 65, and 53 games in those 3 years. They had the highest net rating in a league that involved Kevin Durant being on the Golden State Warriors. They had a higher net rating. And the greatest point is what Rob said. That team didn't have Joel Embiid. I just can't wrap my head around the people that are negative on the Sixers right now, but then also they were the same people who were telling me Joel Embiid was the MVP last year. You can't have both. You can't think Joel Embiid is the MVP and one of the best players in the world, and then look at the rest of this roster and be like, oh, it stinks. Everyone stinks. Like, PJ Tucker is signing to be a bench guy. And if he's not a bench guy, he's starting and playing 25 minutes. He's going to be the 6th or 7th most important guy on the team. You add shooters around Joel. PJ Tucker happens to be a shooter. Like that's just – it's not rocket science. It's just
Mark,
like –
you're leaving one detail out, though. One detail. Who was coaching that Rockets team?
Yeah. Hey, you don't got to tell me.
You didn't paint the whole picture.
That's great. No, you're absolutely right. I wish we had him. I wish we could.
No. Who tried to recruit Doc to Houston after D'Antoni left?
Yeah, you're not wrong. I trust Daryl.
He didn't land them.
Guys, you're making me and Austin agree on a lot of points here, and that just never happens, and I don't really know how to feel about it.
It's a good thing he didn't go to Houston.
The general rule, Rob, is if you agree with me, you're on the right side of history.
I will say Tiago made a great point there. Mike D'Antoni would take me from being like the insufferable optimist that I am right now to I'd be like screaming from the mountaintops that we're going to win the championship.
Now let's go over to the comment
section.
Let's go to the comment section where they're going to have commentary on Mike D'Antoni. Commenters. Yes, we'll take the caller. It's 888-729-9499.
Where are we? Austin, what's your take on the Tobias Harris trade rumors?
Honestly, I think at this point, like, you're kind of doing him a favor. Like you're letting him like, be free of the criticism and like letting him go. If I were him, I would probably want out by now. I mean, let's just be honest. Like, the guy can't breathe without being criticized.
Yeah.
Well, now he's a big star. So
it's true.
He got his ass kicked by Bo Cruz. Let's be real. Let's be.
Damn.
I kind of spoiler warning. My bad, Mark. My bad.
You're good.
Let's not get things twisted
here. Rob, what's your take?
Like I said before, the only way I was trading Tobias Harris was for something big. I don't think you just move him just to move him. I still think he's a very good player. I think he can fit here. I think he can play with these guys. I want, at this point where we stand today, unless you were bringing in another all-star, I'm not getting rid of Tobias Harris.
Yeah.
Well, real quick, can we just do around the table on those two trade? Take the Miles Bridges one out. Would you guys trade for Harrison Barnes and then whatever your pick of Justin Holiday or Mo Harkless?
Harrison Barnes is the target for the Sixers.
I wouldn't.
Like, you wouldn't do that? I'm a yes.
I'm a yes as well.
Yes.
What about Gordon Hayward?
Yes.
Yes.
Jordan Hayward, I'd be in on.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm a yes on both, but I think I kind of look at them the same to me.
Yeah.
Tobias is a bum, says Mr. Yak 91.
Of course he is. Of course he is. Do you understand? This team could have Steph Curry, LeBron James, and Joel Embiid, and there would be fans complaining, "Why would you put this team together? There's only one ball. How could you do this?" I mean, that's where we're at with this fan base right now.
Real
Rob's
quick.
Yeah.
Marley McFly commented, Mike Antoni, take the D out of his name. He doesn't coach defense. They had the #1 net rating when they won 65 games in a league that had Kevin Durant in it. Net rating counts defensive rating as well. Like it encapsulates
Doesn't that
everything.
fan base complain about how boring the Sixers are? Like, do you want to see that scores a lot of points? Is that what you want? Like,
Oh my god,
is this person also like the guy who goes on WIP and says that Ben Simmons it's Benjamin Simmons? There's no J in Benjamin.
That's good. That's better than that. But the Rockets, I mean, those Rockets teams win a title in any other era that doesn't involve the Kevin Durant Warriors. Like that's just how I feel.
I do
agree with his next comment, though.
If Chris Paul doesn't get hurt, they may win a title that year. I mean, they're up 3-1 and he gets hurt.
Exactly. You're exactly right.
The chat does not like it when we tell them that they're wrong.
No.
I do agree. Taurean Prince already signed his deal. I was pumping the Taurean Prince thing up. I love Taurean Prince. And I'll get me a Chris Boucher jersey if he signs with the Sixers. I'm the biggest Chris Boucher guy in the business.
We're gonna get there. Taurean Prince is re-signed with the Minnesota Timberwolves. He was my number 2 on my
Chris Boucher was number
2. What's that, Austin?
Chris Boucher was my number 2, but I think he's gonna get like 20 million.
I love Chris Boucher, man. So
I think
much.
Prince and Boucher were 1 and 2 for me.
Bobby Boucher, also great.
Stop counting Tobias Harris's money. Stop it. It doesn't matter. If it fits under the salary cap and you can still build a good bench, it doesn't friggin' matter.
Or he was the captain. It doesn't matter what he makes.
As long as he buys Tyrese like dinner a couple times a year.
All right. Let's get into Tiago's favorite topic.
We all kill Tobias now. He's the one that owns Chick-fil-A in like 6 years. And I'm paying him.
It always comes back to Chick-fil-A.
That's right.
Tiago, I'm going to throw this one to you. Matisse Thybulle rumors are still going down. Should they trade him? Should they keep him? Should they keep him until the trade deadline next year? What's your take, Tiago?
Should they start him as small forward and lean him at 25 to 30 minute per game player? Because that's my take. I think that this course of Matisse Thybulle has gotten completely out of whack. The guy is infuriating for personal reasons, for basketball reasons. He does a lot of stuff on the court that drive you nuts. But the fact of the matter is the Sixers are a substantially better defensive team when Thybulle's on the court. They're a plus 18 per 100 possessions with Thybulle next to Harden and Embiid. Those are elite level output numbers. And it simply doesn't jive with the fact that people like to say he's unplayable, because all numbers suggest he is playable. He shot above league average from the corner this year. Granted, low volume attempts, but it's still some place where you can put him on the court. He's also a high-level cutter. You can use him in screen dive situations, baseline cutting situations, shown willing to do that. So there's definitely a path for Thybulle to be here, to be a starter, to be an all-NBA defender. And I just don't think that you put this guy out for a story like the majority of Sixers Twitter likes to use it. So, yeah, I'm going the other way on Thybulle. I think you lean in on his elite level defense.
I found that I become smarter when I stay away from Twitter as much as I can.
100%. What about you, Mark? What's your take on Thybulle?
Yeah, I'm definitely closer to Tiago than general Sixers, Twitter consensus on trade Matisse for a bag of potato chips. Like, I think the dumping Matisse makes no sense. I feel kind of the same way I feel about Tobias. Like, there's trade options out there that make sense, but like, I'm not also like desperately looking to trade Matisse for a Pekka Mentos, like this guy said. Like, I'm open to certain options that make sense, or open to guys that don't kill you on the loss you'd be taking on losing Matisse defensively, and also add a little bit more shooting from three. But with DeAnthony Melton, with PJ Tucker, I also don't feel as desperate to trade Matisse now. Like, why not keep all of them, and then halfway through the year, as long as Matisse doesn't absolutely torpedo his value, maybe you can revisit the trade talks, and maybe he's even has a little bit higher value. You're definitely not trading him at the peak of his value right now. If you're trading him, that doesn't mean I'm not open to it. Like, pretty much every offer I've heard from Matisse, I've been like, yeah, I'd be fine if they did it, fine if they didn't. Like, that's kind of where I'm at. I view Matisse kind of the same way I do with PJ. Like, he's the 6th or 7th most important guy on the team.
Yeah. What about you, Austin?
The good thing about trading guys for peak value is that we saw it today with DeJounte Murray. He was traded for 4 first-round picks to a team that's going to be really good. that was helpful. I mean, I'm pretty much out on Thybulle. If Ben Simmons gets crucified for not developing a shot in 5 years, then Thybulle, who has absolutely zero offensive game or really redeeming qualities outside of his defense, we should certainly be out on him too. I am out on Thybulle. You know, the vlogs were cute until the team got good, and now it's just like, all right, but let's see what you can do for us. Oh wait, you can't because you didn't get the shot. Cool, great, thank you.
What about you, Rob?
He shot above league average from the corner. Am I missing something?
He's not talking about that shot.
Tiago.
I mean, we just ignored those numbers.
Tiago, he passed the ball to Jimmy Butler in the playoffs because he was afraid to shoot. He literally said, I'm going to pass it to the other guy on the other team.
Yeah, those are the things they're fearing about his game. But, like, the guy is not a zero from the three-point line. I just don't – yes, he needs to get better at it, but, like, he's not a zero.
Listen, I'm more of the move on from Matisse. Like, I think Mark and Tiago both bring up excellent points. Like, I don't.
I'm in the middle. I'm Switzerland.
Yeah. I don't think I'm as far as Austin, but I'm probably closer to Austin than I am to Tiago. And look, part of that is I got to stay true to where I've been. When they were trading for James Harden, and Dibes can speak to this, I was adamant that for me, I would have rather. Now, I don't know if this was actually an option. I would have rather sent Matisse Thybulle because the offensive game worried me. And then I'm sorry, Tiago, I know what you're saying, but I can't get that picture of him in the playoffs passing the ball to Jimmy Butler out of like playing catch with.
Literally said, I'm going to pump fake this. I mean, never mind. I'm passing this to Jimmy Butler.
It's one of those things, right, where like I have been rooting for this guy. And then when that moment happened and I was there at the game, I sunk. Like my whole thing was just like, oh my God. And honestly, look, and, I don't understand. Why would you we talked about the personal reason shit. You got one shot, then you decided you're not going to get the second shot. I don't understand that. That will never make any sense to me. That to me, I understand that you have personal, but when you're an NBA player, you got to think about these things. I don't know. Like, listen, if they kept him, am I going to be pissed off? No. Like, I think, hey, all right, if he's here, let's see what he's got. But if you have an opportunity to get somebody who is a little bit better on that offensive side, I'd be okay with it. I would certainly be okay with it.
I think this is like the best comment of the night from Smacky. I think that Tiago isn't wrong. Matisse has a positive impact on the court. That's it. Can you trade him for someone else who is positive? Sure. Just don't get rid of him for nothing.
Right.
That's exactly how I feel about it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'm open to trading him. I'm also open to keeping him. It just depends on the value.
I've gone back and forth on this one so many times the last week or two. It's unbelievable. Like every day I'm for keeping Thybulle, against keeping Thybulle. I get it on both ends. He's an awesome elite defender. Having that elite skill is so important as a role player. On the other end, I had 16 of 52 from three in the playoffs in 25 games, negative 15.5 net, Tiago. So that's Thybulle. Like obviously – that's just not, there's way more to that stat. But for me, I am keeping Thybulle as the roster currently stands as probably my starting three moving forward.
Let's hear Gary Cowley out. Yo, bro, can we just blow it up for a new 3-year window?
Well,
Trey Joel Embiid. Who is Trey Joel Embiid? For with Phoenix, DeAndre Ayton and Mikal Bridges, 2 or 3 draft picks. Because when you can trade the 2-time defending MVP runner-up for a 23-year-old who is not a max player, you just got to do it. Thiago literally started drinking upon hearing that take. It literally made him drink.
Yeah, that was a rough one, but each have their own take.
Brendan says, question is, can Thybulle's shooting continue to improve? I think he improved by 2% from his first year. William says, give Matisse one more year. If he improves his offense this summer, I agree. Mr. Jack says, keeping Thybulle on lack of Harden's defense. A lot of people, this is a very divisive topic. Very, very divisive topic.
I do think he's a very short leash with the fans. So if he does play this year, the fans are going to be all over him.
Why? He's not making. He's not Robert Covington. He didn't get that big extension. I don't understand why.
No, listen. I think honestly, when you take into consideration what happened with the vaccine, and then you take into consideration when he was out there being really in the playoffs, what seemed to be afraid to shoot the ball. That's why I think people are just going to remember those two. And look, I'm telling you that one scene will be ingrained in my head for far, far too long, where they were playing keep away, monkey in the middle. And then he decided he wanted to be in the middle and threw the ball to Jimmy Butler. Yeah. It just is ingrained in me now.
Rob says, I think with a full offseason with James Harden, he could unlock something in Matisse with cutting to the basket. We need to see much more of that from Doc in 2022-23. Matt McGinty says, did he say trade Embiid? He must have just finished. Oh my God, what was the movie called? Hustle. I don't know if anybody caught that.
I know the line. I heard that. I was like, don't give him any ideas.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's roll on to our next topic here. Thanks for the comments, guys. Keep them rolling. We have a lot to cover tonight. And let's go into the Eric Gordon rumors. I'll throw it to you, Rob. What's your take on Eric Gordon potentially reuniting with Daryl Morey and James Harden?
This will really do wonders for the group that thinks we're just trying to recreate the Houston Rockets. Look, I want to be against it. I don't know what that deal looks like. I don't know what they'd have to give up, what they'd have to send there. And I'll let Austin and Tiago and Mark talk on that a little bit more. But once again, it's a good veteran basketball player. So would I be mad if Eric Gordon was on this team? No, I wouldn't. It's not rocket science what I'm looking for. I'm looking for guys that can contribute to winning. And I think is Eric Gordon better than what they had on the bench last year? Yeah. He's yeah. He
been the second, third, fourth, and fifth best players on the bench last year.
Right. That's exactly what I mean. So yes, I would be all in on Eric Gordon trade. Now, I don't know as much as these other guys probably do what it would take to get him at this point. I know a lot of that talk was pre-draft using 23 and another guy. So, but I'm on board with Eric Gordon. I am.
What about you, Austin?
Anytime you can get a guy who has a 3-point rate above I want to say it's 60 with Eric Gordon, I am all for it. Let me look up that 3-point rate real quick. Someone make up some time for me so I don't.
It's a bomber.
You have to develop a bomber.
So what you're saying is we can replace the guy that was supposed to be a bomber with an actual bomber.
A 3-point attempt rate of 53.4%. So 53.4% of his shots are threes. You absolutely need to get that in whatever form it takes. It's a no-brainer. If you had to give up Matisse Thybulle to get it, well, so be it. Look, at the crux of it, just keep the game simple, right? In the simplest form, you want to give Joel as much space as possible to operate. Is anyone gonna even look at Matisse Thybulle? They might as well put their arms behind their backs and sit in the middle of the lane under the restricted area when Thybulle's on the floor. They're not going near Thybulle, but Eric Gordon out there, he got some business. Joel is going to have a little bit more space. Anything you can do to space it for Thybulle or for Joel, the better.
Yep. What about you, Tiago?
Man, I don't have many thoughts on Eric Gordon, to be honest with you, man. I think you get older, you get smaller on defense in the perimeter when you compare to Thybulle. That's not the way the NBA game is trending. But I hear Austin's points. Yes, 3-point shooting is valuable, especially at that volume and that efficiency. So there's absolutely reasons to bring him in and put him next to Joel. But I don't see the NBA game trending towards an Eric Gordon level offense, or defense, should I say? So we'll see. I mean, I'm very lukewarm about that rumor, but I do see like what Austin's saying. It does make tremendous value around Joel for sure.
What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I like it. I do it. It doesn't knock my socks off or anything. I'd probably rather like Josh Hart. I don't know if that's even necessarily possible. Probably not.
I believe he has a partial guarantee on his deal, actually.
Did he? I actually didn't see that.
Surprises me because there was some talk like that if the Blazers were to decline that guarantee, there would be an investigation and tampering, because that would mean that they were signaling that they were going to go get like Levine or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't see that actually. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely valid concerns. Like he really had a 2-year dip there in terms of 3-point percentage. He was shooting it a lot, so I mean, it came at a really high volume. But before last year, he definitely had a little bit of a dip in efficiency from 3. But like I said, he's a bomber. Like you go and get that guy and you stick him there, and I think all he has to do is shoot threes. And again, he'd be the 6th or 7th most important guy on the roster. Like all you need those types of guys to do is to have specialty skills and to not kill you on one side of the court. I mean, again, like I'm interested in it, but I'm not saying it's you know, I'll drive him to Houston myself. And I'm not saying like this would be a disgrace. Like it's like, yeah, they could do it. They could not. It all depends on what the other trades are that are on the table, which obviously we're not privy to, but that's kind of what it comes down to.
John says Gordon is too expensive. Peter says good player, but hurt way too much. Quentin pretty much piggybacks off that, saying he didn't play much the last 3 years.
You guys know what his rebounding rate was last year?
No. What's that?
So you're definitely 3.7% rebounding rate.
That's better than 3.6%.
Yeah, it is. So, we're right back to, can this team rebound the fucking ball, which they're solving that with Melton.
Counterpoint. If you're making all of your shots, there's no rebounds to get.
That is very true.
All right. Ivan says Golden State has the best perimeter defensive team. We need Thybulle because you listen to Morey. He wants to get back to a top defensive team. They just brought in 2 guys that are tough-minded defensive players. Presidential Mike, I'd rather bring John Collins in. We need help on defense and rebounding.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
And how about Jay Crowder? Let's jump right into free agents targets for the Sixers tomorrow. We're going to grade all of these out of 10. I need your numbers out of 10. Use decimals if you want to. And let's start off with Otto Porter Jr. I will throw it to you, Mark. How would you grade the fit with Otto Porter Jr.?
Yeah, it's like a 10, but I just don't think – I feel like he's going to end up staying in Golden State if I had to guess, or at least going somewhere that can pay him more money than we can. But that's just a guess. It's 10 fit, but I think it's like a 2 likely.
I go.
Yeah, the fit's a 10. I don't think he's ever going to come here.
What about you, Austin?
I think it's a 10 fit. I believe Golden State has to choose because both are probably going to command something about the mid-level, and I think obviously like both guys are going to want the mid-level. So I think they have to choose one or the other. So if they choose GP2, maybe he does come back. Maybe he is available.
All right. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fit's great. I do wonder a little bit about, is Otto Porter that version of himself only in Golden State, or can he be that version somewhere else, not surrounded by those great guys? But fit's great. I do think that, people are getting excited. I don't know if they have enough money to go ahead and get him.
All right. Let's go to John, who gave Otto Porter Jr. a 5 out of 10. That's interesting. Dante DiVincenzo, we will get to him very, very soon. Let's keep this rolling.
I wouldn't be surprised if Dante goes to the Knicks. He and Jalen were best friends of Villanova. They were roommates. Wouldn't surprise me if maybe Jalen goes to the Knicks and then Dante is not far behind.
Time out real quick on the Jalen Brunson thing. Did you guys see the rumor that there's a dark horse team and it's the Miami Heat?
Yeah, I don't buy
Jalen
any of that. I think this is solely to prevent a tampering thing. It wouldn't shock me if that's like already preloaded into the drafts for like unloading the tweet at 6:00. It might be one of the first things they break.
I was just putting it out there. It would pain me if the Heat were able to give up like Kyle Lowry, Duncan Robinson, and picks and get Jalen Brunson. It would literally break my heart.
Let's roll on to our next one. So 10s all around. Sounds like we're pretty much on the same page. Next up, we have Daniel House. Lead us off, Rob. What's your grade out of 10 for Daniel House?
I mean, I think he fits. You know, these guys are going to be able to give you a lot more about the stats on the Daniel House. I'll be honest. I don't watch a lot of Utah Jazz basketball just because I don't. But, you know, hey, once again, it fits the mold that we're just trying to recreate Houston, right? Because he was in Houston before he was in Utah. I'll give it a 7. You know, once again, I'm all about getting guys on the perimeter that could do a little bit on both ends of the court. So I'll give it a 7.
Awesome.
I think he's a great fit. Shot 37.6% from 3 last year. Only played 42 games. It had a 3-point rate of above 60. So the checks the boxes there for being a good defender. If you trade Thybulle, I would certainly pick up Daniel House. I mean, if you're gonna go if you're gonna go Rockets East, you might as well lean all the way in. Go get PJ. Go get. You already have the new age. You already have
Bring in Scola.
You already have the new age Hakeem and Joel. So go get PJ. Go get Eric Gordon. Go get Daniel.
Ariza. We gotta get
Go get Chris Paul if you can too. The salary cap doesn't exist anymore.
Wasn't Austin Rivers on those teams too?
We know how that. No, we don't want that.
I know all about it.
One Rivers is enough.
Austin, what's your grade?
I would say it's a 9.
Okay. Awesome. What about you, Tiago?
I would give it like an 8. I think it's actually going to happen. I think it's one of the guys that Daryl Morey absolutely bring in as a complimentary piece of the Sixers roster for all the reasons that Austin stated.
Mark.
Yeah, I think it's a 10. Like, my actual biggest problem with the Daryl Morey tenure is that he hasn't brought Daniel House in yet. Like, he was like fully available multiple times. Like, the Knicks brought him in for nothing last year. Like, I'm pretty sure it was during the season too. Like, I think the Rockets just cut him, and like he was sitting out there, and we could have had him, and we didn't. That's the only thing that makes me lean that we won't sign him. Like, I don't think he will be a Sixer because I feel like if Daryl wanted him, like we would have him like last year. I was actually kind of shocked we didn't sign him, but I would absolutely love it. 10 out of 10. He's a 3-and-D guy to its T.
Awesome.
Do you think radio callers would call him Daniel?
Oh yeah,
yeah. I kind of
they might just go Daniel.
John says 7. Jay Moyes says 7. Orky says 6, and John says House is streaky. Let's roll on to our next one, and that is T.J. Warren. Let's throw it to you, Mark. What's your grade for T.J. Warren?
Thumbs down. I heard his like medicals are really, really bad. So I'm kind of basing this in that. But,
oh wow.
I heard that there's a lot of doubt on like what his long-term NBA future is, but he missed a lot of time last year, and he also is kind of just like makes no sense with Tobias Harris. And I feel like they're just he's kind of a poor man's Tobias Harris, in my opinion. Maybe a little better in terms of getting a bucket, I guess, but. I've never been as huge on T.J. Warren as others seem to be, so I'm low on this, like a 2 or a 3 out of 10.
Tiago,
are negative numbers allowed, Chris?
Oh baby.
Austin mentioned Eric Gordon's 3-point rate. You know what T.J. Warren's 3-point rate is? It's about 13%. Yeah. So you're talking about a homeball guy who doesn't pass, who doesn't shoot from distance. That's the last thing the Sixers need.
That's like perfect Sixers. What? That's perfect. Guys who love mid-range jump shot. That's great.
He cooked us in the bubble, man.
He did. But
what about you, Austin?
I actually think this is the one that like there's like a little bit of smoke to.
Ooh.
What?
I think it could happen. We'll see. I mean, he's going to be like basically on a minimum. I mean, no one's going to give him a mid-level. So I mean, it could be one of those things where it's like a minimum buy low guy, right? I mean, we love those. So
It's open to
All
that.
right.
I
Popular
guess.
type player for sure. So
let's just put it this way. He absolutely won't be the guy that killed the Sixers in Indiana. He'll be like 1/15 of that guy. So it'll go great on a minimum.
Austin, what's your grade?
7.
All right. What about you, Rob?
0 out of 10, but also just tried to ruin my day, but I'm not going to let it happen. I don't know. There's the medicals are a question. I don't like the guy's attitude. I never did like his attitude on the floor. He was always a hate the face guy for me. I just would rather him stay the hell away from this locker room. But that means, and after what Austin said, he'll be here, and I'll be thumping my chest about how much I love TJ Warren come October.
No, I didn't say he will be here. I said there's a little bit of smoke. I've heard the name. I've heard the name connected like twice. So,
John says TJ Warren is a 10. Class says 4 out of 10. Jay Moyes says give him a 1-year deal worth, I guess, $5 million.
I think that's 5 out of 10. I think that's 5 out of 10. He's saying
5 out of 10. What does that mean? Oh, a 5 out of 10. Oh, Jesus, yeah. It's getting late. It's getting late for me, guys. Justin's in the house, saying you're all looking great. What's up, Justin? Miss you, buddy. Let's roll on to our next one, and that is Malik Monk. Lead us off, Mark. What's your take on?
I might have to remove my, like, you know how like if you're a juror and you're like biased or like the person, like you have to like recuse yourself from the conversation. Like I wanted to draft Malik Monk like first overall. Like Malik Monk is like probably like my worst draft prospect prediction of all time. Like I thought he was going to be an absolute superstar. I think he's way better than he probably is, and I will always kind of believe in that. I'm happy that he's like kind of made himself a little niche the last 2 years because the first couple were rough. But he's, it's a 40% 3-point bomber with an insanely high 3-point rate. I wish he got to the line at all, but that's not what he would need to do here. I am all the way in. I could not be more in. Like 15 out of 10, but you might have to just like kick me out of this conversation.
What about you, Tiago?
I'm like a 9.5 out of 10 if he comes with a hard cap of like 15 minutes max. He could be that perfect microwave guy off the bench, but it's going to be one of those things like where you're watching Malik Monk, you're like, holy shit, there's a lot of Malik Monk going on right now. Like 10 to 15, be like, we need you to, give us a 10-minute run here and go from there. And absolutely, I think they could use him because I do think he's a much better version of Shake Milton as a scorer. But again, it's got to come with some limitations or else it can get a little bit haywire.
He's going to average like 15 points in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That's
Malik
great.
Monk's name is God of Dunk. That's all I got to say. That's awesome.
The
thing is this. You probably won't be able to afford him because he is not taking a minimum deal. So, he would actually like to take a discount to play for the Lakers, which, I mean, more power to you if you want to play for the Lakers. This
LeBron will pay him on his like through his production company or something. On
like
he'll get him in Space Jam 3.
There's like 3 different Space Jams with Malik Monk as the main characters.
I will executive produce that movie if anyone out there is listening. I will make the Malik Monk Space Jam movie.
Space Jam 3, God of Dunk.
God of Monk.
Austin, what's your grade?
It's about an 8 out of 10.
Okay. All right, what about you, Rob?
Yeah, I'm a 6 out of 10 because where I do see the positives, I also see the negatives. And I think there's this part of me that says you're not going to get him in here at a cheap enough deal where everything we're saying that has to happen for him to work makes sense. I do like Malik Monk, always did. I kind of was like Mark when he was getting drafted. I thought this kid was going to be just an absolute stud of a basketball player. He definitely's found his niche, but I just don't think that they're going to be able to give him what he's going to look for on the open market. And honestly, I wouldn't want to give him much more than a small deal because, like Tiago said, he's got to have a hard capped minute restriction every single game. So,
It's a good
Yep.
thing I'm not the coach because he'd be playing 48 minutes per game. I want all the Malik Monk going on.
Jay Moyd says 9 out of 10 instant bench offense. Richard says Monk is looking better. 9.5 out of 10. 8 for John. 8 for Class. Yeah. If we got Monk, would you move on from Isaiah Joe?
No, don't get rid of it.
No, that's Thiago's boy.
Tiago. Come on, man. You can't do that to Tiago.
I'm still have island stock on him.
All right, let's go into.
I wasn't even an Isaiah Joe guy when he got drafted, but like, there's absolutely no reason that he shouldn't have gotten more of a chance by now. It's pretty unbelievable.
I can remember being on the draft show the night the Sixers got him, and Tiago was literally talking about him from pick 1 all the way to where he got picked. Tiago,
Mark, I would have taken him with the first pick in the draft.
Tiago's so in on it.
All right, Rob, what's your take on Dante and your grade out of 10?
I love me some Dante DiVincenzo. I love the kid's attitude. I love his tenacity. I love the way he shoots. I'm concerned, though, about him with the injury. The health. I don't know where he's at there. And obviously, like, he's a guy that if they signed him, it probably takes a few other guys off the board for me. Whereas if they sign one of those guys, it probably takes him off the board, because it's just too similar. I'd probably stick with that 7 range. I do really like him, but I do have concerns about the health factor.
All right, what about you, Austin?
0 out of 10. Not healthy, not a good enough shooter. He's an athlete, but the Sixers know a thing or two about athletes with foot injuries. So,
all right, what about you, Tiago?
Yeah, I'm like a 5 out of 10. I think we're following the same mode of like undersized wing players that don't shoot well enough and just don't have an appetite for that, man. The Sixers need to get a little bigger on the wing. They already have, like you said, the Anthony Melton fits a little bit of that role, ball handler, kind of like undersized wing player. So, yeah, I don't really see too much in DiVincenzo.
Mark?
Yeah, I'll put it like a 6. I'm definitely not as interested as a lot of the other names that I've went crazy over, like House and Monk and
Okay.
Otto. But yeah, he'd be fine.
Matt McGinty is all in for Dante. 1,000 over 10. 8 for John, and 5 out of 10 for Class, saying Melton is a better 3-point shooter. Fully agree. Let's roll on to DeLon Wright, one of my favorite guys. Mark, lead us off, man. What's your take on DeLon Wright?
I like DeLon Wright. I'm actually like a fan of his game. I've always been a big DeLon Wright guy. But I'm not really interested in going after guards with like the limited allocation of resources that we have. Like, I kind of think I want Melton, Maxey, and Harden playing like all 48 potential minutes at point guard and shooting guard. Like, if Maxey and Harden are playing 34 minutes per game, that means Melton can play 28 minutes per game. Like, I think that's basically what I would want to do there. Maybe Isaiah Joe, obviously. We just talked about that. I'd be fine with sprinkling him into 2 as well. But I wouldn't be wanting to spend any more resources on a 1 or a 2. So for that reason, I'll put it at a 0. But I do like DeLon Wright.
What about you, Tiago?
You give like a 3, man. I just don't get it. Averaged 4.4 points a game last year for Atlanta, man. Like,
when he was starting, he was averaging like 10 plus.
Yeah, but I mean, he just doesn't do anything for me, man. I don't know. Like, yeah, he gets a lot of steals. He plays defense, but I think the Sixers can definitely have better use with that money for sure.
He's like a hypothetical shooter.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not, I don't really like it. I'm like that 3 out of 10 as well. It's just not something that I would like to see them spend the money on. And a guy like DeLon Wright, I think there's other ways you can go and spend that money, which means he'll probably end up on the Sixers, and I'll just be sitting here going, oh, okay.
All right, let's keep it rolling. Next up, we've got Chris Boucher. Lead us off, Mark.
I mean, again, I might have to recuse myself. Like, I love shot blocking backup bigs who can stretch out and shoot threes. It's like an archetype for me on like what my weakness is. Like, throw Mo Bamba in this discussion as well, and it's a 10. Like, Boucher and Bamba would both be like ideal guys for me. I think both of them probably will get a little more than we're able to offer with that $4.1 million if I had to guess. But they both kind of fall in the same kind of basket for me. I'd be interested in both of them, but I'm also not as desperate for a backup pick as a lot of people. I think Paul Reed would be fine as the backup center, but if they do go and spend assets on it, I would love for it to be Chris Boucher.
Thiago.
I'll give it a 7 out of 10 for first and foremost the reason that Mark stated that I think the Sixers need to lean in more on Paul Reed as a backup or even Charles Bassey. Yes, he is a stretch big, although his three-point shooting cratered last year. He shot like 25% from three. So is he really that 38, 39% shooter, more like a 33, 32% shooter? I don't know. But yeah, I think he would add definitely an interesting dynamic to the Sixers, assuming that, Doc leans in on, Chris Boucher as a stretch five and kind of play some of those lineups. But yeah, I just don't think they're going to get him. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I'm like an 8.5. I would really love it. I don't know if they'll be able to get it. And the only reason I'm taking points off is the exact same reason Thiago is. I like them to now lean in the Reed, give Bassey a shot, let these guys kind of, be the backups there. But if you're going to spend, if you're going to try and bring a guy in to be in that position, I would love it to be a Chris Boucher. Now, will he sign for less money here? I don't know. But I'll give it about an 8, 8.5.
John says a 10 for John. So next up, we have Pat Connaughton. Lead us off, Rob. What's your grade out of 10 for Pat Connaughton?
He's another guy I really like, but like Thiago said earlier, I feel like we're just starting to run into this idea that we're running the same type of players where it's like, is that really the best place for the Sixers to allocate? Now, I like Connaughton. I love his attitude. I think he's a gritty basketball player. I'm not sure you guys are much, much better with stats than me, but I know he has shot well in the past. I don't know how he shot last year. I'd probably put him at about a 7.5. I like him, but it's like, some of these guys are kind of interchangeable at this point for me.
Yeah. What about you, Thiago?
I do think he's an upgrade over Dante, and I do think I like the fit a lot better. A little bit bigger than Dante. He's a much, much better shooter than Dante. I give it like a 9. I would actually love if they got Pat Connaughton because he plays both ends of the court as well. So, yeah.
Can they get him, though? Can they get him?
I don't think they can. I think he's going to get some money in the open market. He's a free agent, right?
Yeah. Mark.
Yeah, everything Thiago said. I won't waste anyone's time. 9.5, and I agree with everything. Like, he's a better option than DiVincenzo for sure.
John gives Connaughton a 6. Matt says Phillies could Pat Connaughton. What?
No. Matt McGinty might be drunk.
Ryan says B-ball. Paul will probably get enough playing time, and Charles Bassey had to develop a different generation of talent. All right, let's roll on to
my one question is when you look at those two. I mean, I feel like B-ball or Paul Reed should get the shot first.
Definitely. No question.
Before Bassey. Like, I think Bassey has a lot more development to go. I think Paul Reed has the ability. There's just some things he's got to shore up about his game.
Yeah. The crazy thing about that is, though, like, Doc Rivers was playing Charles Bassey over Andre Drummond in certain matchups in November. And then he was like, nope, not doing it anymore. Charles Bassey doesn't exist. That was just like the craziest thing. Like, Bassey was good in the couple games that he played. And then it was just like, never mind. I'm not interested.
We should do the whole Doc Rivers podcast, Chris. Just shit that we had to put up with last year.
We should make it just a laundry list of things we hate about Doc Rivers. That'd be a long show. That'd be a pretty long show, like this one. Let's roll on to Nicholas Batum. Rob.
I mean, if you're signing PJ Tucker and you're signing an aging guy or getting an older guy, I feel like Batum is like 50 years old. I really do. I know he's not. I know he's younger than PJ. I just feel like I've been hearing rumors about Nick Batum and the Sixers for 25 years. Like, I just feel like he's always there. I don't know. I mean, to me, he doesn't really move it. I would probably go halfway, somewhere around the 6. I don't have really a take one way or the other on Batum.
Austin's back. Austin, any thoughts on Nicholas Batum grade out of 10?
He's staying with the Clippers.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. In fact, couple notes here while I was away. First, 20 out of 10 for Chris Boucher. Perfect. Perfect fit. Absolutely perfect. Pat Connaughton picked up his option. He's off the board.
No. All right.
DeLon Wright. This is what you get for DeLon Wright. That's
Oh.
terrible. Terrible. Do not need DeLon Wright. That's all I got to say.
That's disrespectful.
All right. How about Victor Oladipo?
I don't know.
Mark.
I don't know what this guy is.
5 years ago, Mark?
I don't know what Victor Oladipo is. He looked better than I expected last year, I guess. But I guess he did. I was in 8 games and then in the playoffs. But yeah, I'm just I'm good on Oladipo. I didn't give my thing on Batum on the last one, but Batum and Niang playing in the same lineup would be the slowest lineup in the history of forwards in the history of the NBA. That'd be fun. That'd be just fun.
Sounds
to
like
watch.
an inspiration to all of us.
Yeah, that'd be fun to watch. Throw Kyle Anderson in there.
He's also on my list, Kyle Anderson.
Mark, how would you grade Oladipo out of 10?
Like a 4. I don't know. I have no idea how to grade Oladipo. I have no idea what he is. That's where I'm at.
Thiago, what's your thoughts?
Was I the only one that saw him just breaking shots left to right against the Sixers in the playoffs?
He was bad against the Sixers.
Oh my god!
He was
He
bad.
did anything. Yeah, I'm no interested in him, man. Sorry, 3 out of 10. You're forgetting one name. I'm very disappointed, Chris. Very disappointed.
Me? Well, we still have plenty to go. We still have plenty to
When
go.
is this gonna end?
I don't know. It's never going to end.
Realize
We're going till 6 p.m.
I
tomorrow.
was going to say, we're going to 6 p.m. tomorrow. There's just no stopping. We're going
We're
to
gonna
get
go into another. Like, oh, wait,
Consolidate
they've already used all their space. Gotta end the show. There's nothing left else to do.
It's,
Austin, quick grade.
Oladipo 7 or 8. He attempted 7 threes per 36 last season, so got up a good volume. Shot selection is understandably sketchy and questionable at best, but I just couldn't get out of my head of him constantly getting to the line against the Sixers. I think he was coming off your bench. Oladipo is a guy who's going to slow down your offense, find you some ways to score points from the free throw line, and really, manufacture points in that second unit, which is all you want. So if he's a guy you get, I'm pretty good. I think it's a good pickup.
Rob.
Yeah, I'm like a 6.5, 7. I have a slight intrigue in him, just because of some of the things I did see. I know what Thiago's saying, but he did get to the line a lot against the Sixers. I mean, he was aggressive, and it's almost like what we talked about. There's got to be a cap on his minutes, but coming off the bench, I would not mind having. Let's put it this way. I would not mind saying put Victor Oladipo in the game instead of saying put Furkan Korkmaz or any of the other goons on the Sixers bench last year in the game. So from that standpoint, I'll go like 6.5.
All right. We got some Oladipo love. John gives him a 9. 10 for Mr. Jack. And Klaus, 3 years ago, Oladipo 8 out of 10. Now 2 out of 10. All right, we've only got 3 more to go. Let's do these real quick. Gary Harris, Rob.
Look, people might tell me I'm crazy, but I've loved Gary Harris since they started throwing out rumors that he might have got bought out. I would love Gary Harris on this team. And you know me, I'm not like Mr. Stat Guy. It's just not my thing, right? I just look at a basketball player, and I love the youth. I love the athleticism. I like Gary Harris. Gary Harris is a 9 for me. I would love to see him on this squad coming off the bench. It, to me, would be a great fit.
Austin.
Not PJ. Gary Harris shot 46% on corner threes. Last season, it was 81st percentile for wings, 38% on all threes, 71st percentile for wings. Great pickup if you can get him. I don't know that he's going to be in your money market, but we'll find out soon.
Thiago.
I'm still bitter Atlanta didn't buy him out, man. I'm so pissed about that.
Yeah.
What the hell are they doing? 10 out of 10. I love Gary Harris, man. He is exactly the player I think you would want from that. So,
Is this the guy you were thinking of, Thiago?
no, there's a lot.
Oh, all right. Mark, grade out of 10 for Gary Harris.
It's like 4 out of 10 for me.
Wow.
I like Gary Harris, but I also it's kind of the same thing. I don't really want a guard at this point. I think all 48 minutes should be played by Maxey, Harden, and Melton, and he can't play the 3. He's 6'4". So I just don't think Gary Harris is going to be able to be a 3 in the lineup. But if Gary Harris was 6'6", I'd be all in. If he was 6'7", I'd be even more all in. But I just
Gotta
don't
get
think
some platform shoes, if you ask me.
yeah, put some lifts in there. But yeah, I just don't think they have the ability to bring in another guard right now, or the minutes to really disperse, especially if we believe in Isaiah Joe at all, or Jaden Springer at all, or I just don't think there's any space for him here. He's a good player. I just actually searched my Twitter of it on June 26, 2014, when he was drafted. I had 5 tweets about how Gary Harris was not being drafted soon enough. Like, I loved him as a prospect, like almost more than Malik Monk, but he really has kind of fallen off a little bit in the last couple of years, from basically since Denver gave him that contract. But he's still been, I mean, he's a good NBA player, but again, I don't want a shooting guard.
Mark is when he gets like $20 million for agency, Mark's going to go streaking down the middle of Broad Street.
Yeah.
In 2014 saying, I knew it. I was right about Gary Harris.
No, I was wrong. I thought Gary Harris was going to be a multiple-time All-Star by this point. If you would have asked Mark 2014, going to, I guess that would have been a high school senior Mark, he would have been like, Gary Harris, 100%, All-NBA.
We're going to wrap it up. We're already an hour 30 plus into the show.
I want to know this guy. Who was Tiago's guy you didn't mention?
Sorry. Mike Muscala, man.
Oh, my God.
Put him in the hall. Put him in the Sixers hall.
How do you forgive Mike Muscala?
That guy just looks like he's anti-vax. I don't know what it is.
Bring him back. Come all in. That's great.
Love it. All right. Let's do plugs. Mark, where can we find you, man? Time is yours.
It's Saturday radio show 11 to 1 every week. Fox PHL The Gambler. I've had Dibes on. I've had Austin on. I'm sure I'll have Tiago on in the future. I try to bring a bunch of guys from TPL on as much as I can, because this is got a lot of smart minds around, excluding Austin Krell. Get his mind out of there. You got a lot of smart minds out there.
This morning I actually put my pants on for my socks. It was bad. Real stupid stuff.
What about you, Tiago?
We can find me at the Painted Lines. We just finished the draft coverage. I'm sure we'll be doing some summer league stuff when it does pick up. I know Chris gets excited about that. And find me on Twitter, Yellen.Rivers. That's what I do. So.
Oh, yeah. Tons of summer league content coming. Oh, man. That's my baby. Just like the NBA draft and NFL draft. What about you, Austin?
You can find me writing about the Sixers to no end for the Painted Lines. I also cover the NBA at large for USA Today. You can find me there. Pretty soon you'll find me in the bathroom shaving my terrible beard.
What about you, Rob?
Well, apparently you can't find me on Mark's show. He just named everybody, but not me. But
wait, I have Rob on too. That was crazy.
I'm just gonna let that one go. No worries, man.
I swear that didn't mean
I'm not here to keep
We need to have this happen. We need to have this happen. We need to have a segment on it, but instead of introducing him as we had to introduce Rob as a real estate agent.
Yeah,
a real estate agent.
Look, see that? I wore merch. I wore the merch today.
I'll make Rob the official.
To try. And this is like one of the bigger shows that I've been on in a while, so I'm hoping somebody in Jersey sees it.
Rob, you can be the official realtor of the Tough Cover Radio Show free of charge. Since I had that flip up, you're my
realtor. Rob.
You can always find me here with Dibes, because Dibes always invites me on, unlike others. And that's okay. I tried to make up for it. Working as the co-host here, man. I listen. I have a blast coming on to talk with you guys. I was pumped when Dibes told me all 3 of you were getting on today, because I knew it would be a lot of fun, and it really was. I know it's been almost 2 hours. Didn't feel like that though. So you catch me, Philly_Madness. Like Austin said, I try and avoid Twitter as much as I can anymore, because I find myself getting dumber. But I do pop on there every now and again. You'll see me and Tom Kelly had a little back and forth today, because the contrarian that he is at times came out, and I just had to say something.
All right, guys. Thank you. Be sure to follow everybody here if you don't already. Amazing Sixers Twitter follows. I promise you, you'll thank me later. Tons of Summer League content coming on the way. Yeah.
If you want houses with no inspection, go to Rob.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you're getting a damn inspection. I ain't playing that game.
Guys, thank you again for watching. Comments were amazing today. Please be sure to like this video. Help us out. Help us keep growing. Tons and tons of content is a Gargano. He always is the Gargano.
I gotta tell you, he's been my idol since I was like 6 years old when it comes to sports radio.
Wait.
That's the greatest compliment I've ever received.
Now we need to actually have the sign off from Rob, like the play the freaking song.
Listen, I gotta get a catchphrase at some point. I just do. I just have to figure it out.
I love it. Guys, like this video. Amazing comments tonight again. Thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow for more Sixers free agency and then more Summer League content on the way. For Rob, for Austin, for Tiago, for Mark, stay awesome, everyone.